he didn't unmute himself. I was looking at it with the 10 seconds left, but yeah, it's amateurs over here. What's going on?
I saw the big smile on your face, and I go, "What did I do wrong?" I'm looking down in the corner here while the music's playing, and you saw this huge smile on your face. I'm like, "Ah, shit, what did I do now?" But how you doing, brother? What's going on?
I'm doing spectacular, man. It's a rainy day here in my area, so I'm not
Yeah,
looking
here too.
forward to. I was, you know what? I was really looking forward to actually going for a run today. I don't know. I woke up in the morning for a run, but I'm not really set up to like run with like workout gear. So maybe I need to go to the store and grab some like some windbreakers and some stuff to comfortably run. Because I am training for a 5K next month. So yeah, so like it kind of puts a damper on my mood a little bit, Dan. But
Yeah, you got to get on it.
gotta.
You know what, buddy? Go grab yourself just a simple friggin' rain suit.
Yeah. I'll get a poncho or something like that, and then just
Poncho.
I'll get a poncho and like maybe I'll like take off like an airplane or something like that. Or no, let's call it space spade. I'll probably just go to the gym, man, and just run on the treadmill, and get my stats up and maybe do a double tomorrow or something like that. But it doesn't damper. What's going on with you, brother?
Yeah, I just thought of that. You can actually just go to the gym and run as long as you want, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's unlimited, right? It's
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, yeah, man, that must suck when you're training because you don't really want to run in the rain, and then I'm like, well, hold on, there's ways to do that, but it's good, buddy, it's good. I went to the doctor yesterday to get my results of my CT scan, and it looks like part of my trachea is gone. I've kind of swallowed all the cartilage or spit it out because I've coughed up quite a bit of cartilage. So the radiation actually damaged my trachea, and they say my Adam's apple will probably never go back to the middle because half of it or a third of it's gone. So it's interesting because you start
core, you got
you
got like
you got a half-eaten apple down there.
Yeah, you got like a half an AirPod, there we go.
So it's interesting because you start like you don't really understand. I guess you don't really. I mean, most people don't really understand the mechanism that is the throat. No. Right, and how
let's call it space spade. You don't either, right? You didn't either until you got, like,
didn't until I had to, right? Because exactly. I'm sitting there going, why am I choking all the time? Why am I like coughing after I take a drink of water? Why am I constantly having water in my lungs and infection in my lungs and constantly on medication? And it was like, so you have to start digging into that. Mm-hmm. And wow, this is actually turning into quite a transition into today's topic. But so you have to start digging into that and understanding, okay, what are the long-term results of it? If I do this, what are the short-term impacts or effects? And, if I decide to do this, what, and so, yeah, it's a new level of awareness and new level of understanding and just some new education that I need to do, buddy. I mean, there's nothing else I can do. It is what it is. I've been through the radiation. The damage is done. Yeah. My doctor said, I said, well, like, is it ever gonna? He said, the problem is like with the radiation, it constricts blood flow, and blood flow is needed for recovery. And he said, like, once the cartilage is gone, it's just like arthritis, right? It's gone. Like it's not coming back. So it's it was kind of like one of those, shit, like it. Pretty bummer because I was thinking this is just the part of the recovery and it's going to get better and better and it might not get better for me. But, on the second hand, I mean, I could be pissed off about it. I can be angry about it, which I was yesterday, to be completely transparent. But I'm alive and I'm kicking. I can talk. I can work. I can sit here with you instead of being in a bed hopped up on morphine. So I have to look at that side of it, but also the educational side, like we were talking about yesterday, that side to fully understand it. You know what I mean? And now that I'm getting better at understanding it, I also think when we fully understand something, we can take the hit a little easier. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't quite understand it, I think it stings a little more. Kind of like when you first get into sales and everybody says no, and it stings on you personally. When you realize they're not really saying no to you, they're saying no to the fact that they've had 15 calls this morning and they've all pissed them off. And now you just happen to be the 16th call and you get the wrath kind of thing. So I'm thinking of it more along those lines, brother.
There we go, man. You gotta do that, man. You gotta, as life kind of comes across, man. Whatever is important to you. We talked about this so many lengths of time. It's that time that you buy that new car and then you start seeing the new car on the highway, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's when something affects you, then you kind of like highlight a little bit more. But what are we talking today about, man? I saw the title and I was like, oh, what the heck does Dan have in store for today?
You see, you just gave it away, buddy. Here we are saying that we prep so much on the background for the.
We just
Just said we didn't do shit. We just
yeah,
show up and start talking.
but that's a better, I find, let's talk about that a little bit. There's
Sure.
certain, I feel like there's certain, I feel like for a daily show, and this is for everybody who's watching out there, a daily show, it shouldn't be so scripted in terms of like, you should have your topic and then kind of chat about it a bit. But then I feel like if you're doing like a once or twice a week kind of show, then it should be more kind of, because you only get that one chance, right? But with this, it's like you get five chances, right? You got
Yeah.
five chances to hit somebody, and be like, oh, I never saw this episode, this podcast before. I'm going to take a look at it. So shout out to us, shout out to Chris Shaw, shout out to everybody who does like a daily podcast. Like, this is no joke. It's hard for us to understand, like, like the preparation point of it, because like we prep a little bit in terms of we don't say the same things over and over again because we don't want to be a broken record and we can only go back to the same stories we learned. But with that being said, like, these engage different audiences as well, right? So, and one thing I've learned in research, Dan, I've been really researching YouTube and the algorithm and been using vidIQ, and our guys that we talk about that we have on Thursdays, you got the Alex Hermosi, you got the Ed Milets, Bob Proctor, whatever all these guys are. They really have about 4 or 5 things that they really talk about, and they just kind of
Yep.
like regurgitate it,
Yep.
and it's just nothing. And it's not about reinventing the wheel, but it's just like, okay, well, if I've seen this video for the 20th time in a different way, maybe I'm like tired of it. But imagine the first time that I saw this video, right? So
Yep.
it's just like kind of that rinse and repeat and things like that. So yeah, for our show, sometimes you guys, it's kind of like Monday mayhem every single day. We gotta, some days we have a plan, sometimes we don't. But I love it. I think it's a great time just to kind of spend. And I use this for more of kind of like a brainstorming session too, just to kind of get
Yep.
opinions and then engage with everybody. But there we go.
So it brings us into today's topic, which is transition costs, and some people immediately kind of like what you did. You're like, what transition costs? What are you talking about? And you look at all of these major influencers, and there's a structure that a lot of them have been taught. Where it originated from, I don't know, but everyone teaches it. Pick 5 topics and talk about those 3 to 5 topics. That's it.
Yes,
And
sir.
talk about them in 50 different ways. And Gary Vee was probably the first one 6-7 years ago that came out and said, listen, you guys all think that I have all these really cool things. He goes, I talk about 3 things, but I talk about them in 100 different ways. And I think that goes back to us as sales reps. Like, be really good at 1 to 3 things and focus on those 3. And, and that's just my little kind of off the highway tidbit for all you sales reps out there. Like, don't be the general contractor. Be that guy that does concrete, stamped concrete, and brushed concrete. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't call a general contractor to put in your walkway. You call a concrete company, right? And so I think, as I know for myself, Ryan, and I don't know about you, but for myself, when I first started, I was like, any business, anybody, any company, any industry that would give me freight and I can make $1, I'd be like, I'm in. And now, and I don't know if it's, well, I guess it's tenure, it's experience, it's dealing with some of those people that you get freight from, but they're never customers. They're just business, right? And again, I guess, the big one we talk about all the time is depending on what kind of lifestyle you want. Do you want that business that revolves around you being there or revolves around fighting for every dollar, or do you want something else? You know what I mean? So it's different. But when we get into this transition costs, I ask all of you out there watching, listening, whether you're watching this live on the podcast later, have you ever thought about what it costs a traffic manager to bring you in? And when I say that, Ryan, I'm talking time, I'm talking credibility, I'm talking, friction, I'm talking costs, all of this. It all adds up. And when it adds up, it can either be a really good thing or a really bad thing. And let me give you an example. So traffic managers having a few issues with a customer, they choose to bring you in. You completely shit the bed. Now those few issues become an avalanche for that customer. Like, what do you think happens with his customer when things go wrong? Right? Secondly, time. They bring you in, they have suppliers in there that understand the way the business moves, understand who to email, understand now you're coming in, you have to learn it all. So it's extra time for them to put in with you to make sure you're up to speed. I look at it often like, for all of you out there in operations, you've seen it a million times where your operation, you have your operations manager or operations personnel, and you bring in a new person and they're trying to train them live while freight's happening. 99% of the time, the person trying to train them says, okay, well, just let me do it. Because it takes more time to bring somebody up to speed than them just doing it themselves. And I think this is a huge part of our business that as sales reps, we do not put our attention to. I mean, I could tell you, I've very rarely until probably the latter part, and I'm talking probably the last 6-7 years of my career, did I ever put any attention to what would it take this traffic manager for the next 2 weeks to integrate me into his network? Because it's important. Like anything you do, Ryan, you just said you've been researching the algorithms of Google and YouTube and all of that, right? That's time out of your day. Is that time important? Do you want me to let you finish?
No, I think it's crazy that you think about it. When you're looking at that education and understanding that, I said this like a couple weeks ago, where it's just like, we all get the same amount of hours every day. When everybody tries to replicate time, like Dan, you were kind of saying this, like, when you were trying to be that one person, that one size fit all, like, I'll take this call, I'll take this call, I'll take this call, I can do it. I've been to so many freight brokerages where they're like, if it moves, we'll take it, and it's just like, if you're not a niche of it, it's like, and what we see here on the Canadian market, right, Dan? Like, you talk to different freight brokerages, they say they can do everything. And then, it's like, okay, well, we got like domestic US customer who's been working with his broker for like 20 years. You really think we're going to make a dent in that customer's business? I really don't think so at all as well. So I just think, like, when it comes to like education and so on, pick the things that matter to you and just keep working on it. Like you said, Gary Vee said this many years ago. One thing that Gary Vee really resonates with me is that jab, jab, hook thing. I use that in all business. I know you talked about it quite a bit as well. So I just think like that transitional, like what that cost, and we don't think about that, Dan. So can you talk to the audience a little bit about what does that actually cost? Because some people might be like, hey, I get paid a salary. It doesn't matter to me if a customer, like my customer, pays what they pay to switch over to a different solution provider. They're still using me at the end of the day. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. What is your advice to people like that, Dan?
Very bluntly, smarten up. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but that's the reality of it. Like, here's the thing. You should care about every single cost your customer has. And here's the reason I say that is because a lot of people will be like, well, why is that my problem? Because the first place to cut costs is transportation. In every company, they will cut transportation costs before they fire somebody. Because it's easy. Find somebody cheaper, because there's always somebody cheaper. And if you don't understand, or here's my even bolder statement to you. If you don't ask the question, hey, if you bring me in, what is it going to cost you in time, energy, effort, credibility? If you don't ask that question, I think you're missing a big part of the sales puzzle in general. And the reason I say that is because we as individuals, everything we do costs something else. I cannot do this show at the same time. If I choose to do something else instead of this show, there's a cost associated to it, Ryan. Every time we switch the show, there's a cost associated to it. Every time we switch the theme, the style, what we talk about on a daily basis, there's a cost associated to it. That could be viewers, that could be people that download the podcast later. That could be, Fridays, we switch to book club. Amazing day. We might lose 20% of the people that listen to the podcast on Fridays because they're like, well, I'm not reading the book.
Mhm.
We choose to do it for the betterment of both ourselves and our core audience. And I think if our core audience gets into it, they'll understand that that's a good investment in their time. So, how are you helping your clients with these transition costs? Right? Like you think about it. Cost of switching suppliers in today's day and age is high, right? Why is it? I wrote a few things down. So,
Mhm.
status, image, credibility, and brand. Like, think about how we, as humans working in a corporation, we want status in that corporation. And it's not ego. Some people it is, but it's not ego. What I'm talking about is you walk into, you're a traffic, and if you're a salesperson or whatever, just put yourself in this shoe for a minute. You're a traffic manager and you walk into a budget meeting and you say, you know what? I found somebody that's 5% cheaper. Now, I'm just using a hypothetical scenario. Found somebody 5% cheaper. I'd like to go with them and I'd like to give them a third of the business. Would you rather, one, have everybody in the room say, you know what? Bang on, man. We trust you. Go for it. Or two, well, I don't know. The last time you did that, it completely backfired and we lost $1 million customer. So I don't know if I trust your decision making and that's, they might not say that, but that's what their intent, like that's what their meaning is. They don't trust. So every traffic manager, everybody on this planet wants to be the one where they say, hey, I think this, and everybody goes, yeah, that's a great idea. We trust you because you make things happen. That's a transition cost, right? Whether it be status, image, credibility, brand, training. Another one, big one, like how many times have you got a new customer and we onboard and we think we onboarded properly, and all of a sudden mid transit on a shipment, we realize we missed something, or there's something wrong, or the traffic manager or their team has to spend an hour with your team going through shipping points, hours of service, who to contact it. Like there's time, that's money.
Yeah.
And we don't, as salespeople, we don't necessarily put that at the forefront of our sales. We're thinking, let's sell this company, let's get this business, and let's call a spade, Ryan. We're thinking, what are we making out of it?
Yeah.
What's my cut? Right? How is this going to impact my life financially? And then another one I wrote down was knowledge, right? Just that general knowledge of companies. Like, what do I do when a fire hits at 1:00 in the morning? Do I have the authority to make the decision and make the call, or do I have to contact somebody? What happens when it's 6:00? Do I have to contact somebody? What about 8:00? What about 6:00 in the morning? What about 5:00 in the morning? Like all of these things we learn as we build the business.
Yep.
But these are all transitional costs that your prospects are thinking about. Let's flip the switch here for a minute, right? I had a demo call with Bridger. And here's a very big point that I want everyone to get. On the demo call with Bridger, it was for a major corporation. They all knew about my cancer diagnosis and about my trip over the last 16 months, if you will. His first question, Ryan, was, what's the succession plan? God forbid you're unable to do what you do.
Valid question too. Yeah.
Valid question. That's a transition cost question. I transition my CRM now to you, and I go with Bridger. What happens if you, quote unquote, disappear, and not even dead, but end up with a number 2 tumor, end up in the hospital, end up on drugs for 19 months, not able to do business? Like, it's a valid question. And I said, you know what? Great question. We've got a team of people. Ryan would be the next one to step in, and then so on and so forth. So we've already planned for that. But he came right out and asked that. And do you know what it did, Ryan? The big thing it did, it stopped me and said, you're interested in the long term with me and this company.
Yeah.
And to me, that meant more than anything. And some people might think, oh my God, Dan, like he asked you if you were going to die. I would. If I'm putting hundreds of my sales reps, my team that I've spent millions developing into your system, I damn well want to know you're going to be around tomorrow, man. You know what I mean? Like think about it. That's a transition question. That's a transition cost, right? Like, let's say if it was me and you, and tomorrow, God forbid, something happened, or even next year, God forbid, something happened, and they're all in, and you just decide, well, you know what, I'm shutting it down. I'm going to kind of take my money and run. Where are they? What
Yeah.
happens to them? And so this is the big question that I say all the time is, what is it costing your prospect to work with you? Because it's costing them something.
It's costing something, and this is a big it just reminds me of something that's really big in the news right now. So a couple months ago, the WWE, Vince McMahon, he sold the WWE to Endeavor, and Endeavor
Really?
is, yeah. Oh, you don't know? Okay, so this is
I didn't know.
so
How many billions did he sell it for?
I think like 4.2 or something like that. He sold for a couple billion. So yesterday was so today is actually the first day that Endeavor owns it, owns WWE, and it's the same thing that just kind of happened. Vince kind of gave like a big like F. So just with peeling the curtain a little back, Vince McMahon kind of like left, and then he left his son-in-law, who's Triple H, to kind of run the show. And Triple H has a great like creative mind. Like every wrestling fan loves his ideas. The stories have been amazing for the past 2 years and everything like that. And then there was a news report that came out this morning that Vince McMahon is back. He's back now that the deal is done. He's basically kicking out his family. This is kind of like some Succession shit. But just coming back to the transitional thing, it's just like that deal with Endeavor wouldn't have been made unless Endeavor asked, hey, Vince, what is your succession plan? Because are you coming back? Are you going to be the guy there like day to day? Because Endeavor, they own the UFC, for people who don't know. So Endeavor right now, they don't get involved in UFC. Like Dana White was the previous owner. He's still there. He's still running the show. They're just kind of like an angel investors, and they kind of just reap the rewards.
Okay, I was going to ask, because I know I've always heard Dana White's kind of the
So he's not the owner anymore. No, he's not the owner.
Okay.
Not anymore. He sold it. Him and Enzo sold it over to Endeavor. But the point is just like, even with Vince McMahon, they're asking him about a succession plan, and even they're gonna ask Triple H. Triple H actually had a heart attack. Like he has an actual pacemaker that he can't fight no more at the young age. I think he's like in his 50s or so. So they're gonna ask what your succession plan is. Like that is like intriguing, and I'm interested. Like this is the first time I'm hearing about you on that demo sharing that story. So thank you for doing that. And I think that's a crazy question to ask. And then you got to ask your customers too, bringing this back to logistics sales. What's going to happen? I know when I got in the industry, Dan, all these deals kind of got made on like the golf course. They were all older guys than me. No, I'll call a spade a spade. They're older, just white men, just in these roles of being logistics manager. It's true though, like in their suits and stuff like that. And now we've seen that influx, like, you're seeing more women in there, like in these roles. They're not getting pigeonholed into HR or customer service or anything like that. They're becoming logistics managers. And then you see the younger people, like all my customers are people relatively to my age that I can get along with. So coming back to that, what is that actual
the same
cost?
Language.
You have to, yeah.
So
it's truly important. I think when it comes to like the transitional costs, like build that in. Dan said, like, when you're doing that SOP, and then that one thing that you forgot, never think that you're getting too much information or that you sound stupid, and that's the one big mistake that we all can kind of make here. But I think, when you look at the actual cost of like itself, when they bring somebody on, understand that cost and factor and acknowledge it. Like, how good would you be on a sales call if you told a logistics manager, look, I know that it costs money, it costs time, it costs resources to even have a conversation with me, to even send me out a quote or even take me like on board me, things like that. What do I need to do to kind of make that, either remove that price if it's monetary or based in service? How can I help you so that change isn't a big deal? It's like all of us, we go through change, right, Dan? Like we're in the podcasting, we're in podcasting now. You're as well. It's like when you switch from Mac to Mac, there's still that learning curve. When you go from iPhone to iPhone, there's that learning curve. It's just like, okay, what is my ROI on this, and the reason why you're upgrading? Maybe you're upgrading your phone because your phone got slow again. So that, hey, it's going to take me an hour or two, transfer all my contacts, transfer all my photos, transfer all that stuff, but it's going to be for the betterment of yourself. So think about that for your customer. How can you basically, if you were to come in, how can you commit? Don't come in here transactional and waste their time, because at the end of the day, you're going to just screw it all. You're going to screw it for somebody else.
Yep. It's interesting you said that. So the last 3 years of my career, 4 years of my career, I skyrocketed past anything I ever thought imaginable. That's where I came up with the 10 rungs above my head, because I thought I was at the pinnacle and I was just at the beginning. And the one thing I did with every single customer for the last 4 to 4.5 years of my career is I said, what does it cost for you to bring on a new supplier?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, what do you mean? I said, time is money, energy is money, effort is money. If you choose to spend 30 minutes with me, it's 30 minutes you're not doing something, whether that's a report, so then you have to do that after hours, or you have to come in earlier. Like, what does it cost? And I said, what I will do is I will cover all of those costs, plus I'll guarantee my service. So if the first 10 loads, if something goes wrong, you'll get it for free.
Nice.
Now that's a belief in what you bring to the table. That's a huge belief in what you bring to the table. And 99.9% of the time, they had no idea what it cost. And I said, come up with a number. Give me a number. And I remember even Greg, Greg's been on our show before. He's like, well, I'm not really sure, Dan. I said, well, give me a number, Greg. And he says, well, if I get this, $500. I said, okay, I'll give you $100 off the first 5 loads.
Done.
Right. So it's making it. So 2 things. This does 2 things, and I love your thoughts on this, Ryan, and then we'll get moving. Number 1, it makes it so frictionless, and number 2, it's a grand slam offer. Like, okay, hold on. If it costs me $500 to bring somebody on, you're going to give me back that $500, and if in the first 10 loads something goes wrong, you're going to give it to me for free. Like, you really believe in what you're doing, don't you? Mm-hmm. And that was literally what Greg said to me. And I said, beyond everything, I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in my team. I believe in my team. And that's a team of operations people in my office and my team of suppliers that are all family. I believe in it all. And there was certain lanes where he's like, what about this lane? I go, I can't give you that guarantee on that lane because I'm not as versed in it. But I can tell you one thing, you give me a week and I'll get versed in it and I'll give you a guarantee. So, right, it's like maybe all of those transition costs aren't going to add up, but you go to somebody and you say, okay, it's going to cost you $1,000. It's like phone companies, right? So, and I know I keep jumping, but think of it like this. Phone company calls you up. You really want the iPhone 14 before the 15 comes out today, I think, or you want the iPhone 15. If a company were to call you up today, say, we're in Canada, so there's like Bell and Telus are the big ones. Rogers, another one, but you're talking like Sprint or Virgin. You're with one company and they call you up and they say, hey, we want you to come over to our company. And you say, well, I still owe them on my phone. They say, well, what do you owe? I still owe $200 on my phone. Okay, we'll pay the $200. Come over today. We'll give you a brand new phone and we'll give you the same rate or lower rate. What would you do?
Easily.
Move. Yeah. Because it's a no-brain offer. And so this is another way as salespeople can create less friction to bring prospects and customers into their world, right? And I think it's I'm not going to say a forgotten, just a not thought about. I don't know if even that's proper English, but you understand what I'm saying, where it's like, I don't think it's conceptually part of a salesperson's plan, which it really should be.
No, and it's not, especially when we're kind of going to Q4 as well. We want everybody to kind of take a look at that. Like, well, we've always been big proponents of, like, sell something else other than, just freight or because there's always going to be somebody much cheaper than you, or there's going to be so much more better than you, full transparency. Yeah. So, when you kind of have the cost, like for me, I relate this to like my own podcast as well. Like for me, my aim of my podcast is to get that question that I ask that is like, holy shit, I've never been asked that before. And I've never thought of that before. And those are where the real conversations happen when it comes to like logistics managers, even people in your industry and everything like that, is asking the questions that they've never truly been asked before and being like, okay, that's where the collaboration is like, okay, let me put this on the parking lot and I'll get back to you on this one. So I think it's great. Everybody should be asking those questions, those pertinent questions outside of like, hey, what do you ship? How many ship? Like frequency, that stuff can be figured. You still do. And for what it's worth, you do have to ask those questions still, but if you can just add a little bit more, then like the next broker or the next logistics person calls them, and they're going through the same spiel that everybody else did, then, you kind of leave that little bit, not even a little bit of a lasting impression, because they're going to forget about you by tomorrow anyways. So it's up to you to kind of keep the fortune in the follow-up as well. But that's a different topic at hand.
Oh yeah. And we got a good one for that topic. But here's the thing, Ryan. So, you brought, geez, it's like, we're climbing, brother. We're climbing here. So you brought up a very good point. What if you were to start the conversation, like screw the origin, destination, all that stuff. that can come secondary. What if you were to start the conversation with, hey, Ryan, it's Dan calling from Bridger Sales System. Listen, I understand you get 1 million calls a day. Here's the thing. I want to understand exactly what it costs you to bring on a new supplier. I want to cover that cost. And not only that, I'll guarantee the service if where you're shipping is in my, like, whatever you want to call it, my specialty zone, my niche, my whatever. So do you have 3 or 4 minutes for us to have a conversation? Now, if you start the conversation like that, I'm going to say you're going to get better results because you're coming out and you're making that big promise right off the front. And regardless, especially when you start saying, you know, if where you ship to is in my whatever, but your origin, the reason I'm calling you is because this is where I start. So I just needed 3-4 minutes of your time to have a conversation. Is now good, or should we talk sometime next week? Right? Like, I think you're going to get way further ahead than any other salesperson calling up because you're hitting them with the big promise. Like, hey, listen, I'll cover your cost to switch. Not only that, I'll guarantee you the first 10 loads if the stuff is in my niche. You don't pay for a thing if I screw up. Now, that's putting your money where your mouth is. And that's putting a guarantee on the table that you're saying, I know what I'm doing and I can make this work.
Well, to me, that's everything. It is, but like we don't want to kind of pigeonhole it this as well, right? Like you don't necessarily have to be like, you know, put in a guarantee in terms of like monetary as of it, right? It's just like, hey, I'll give you, let me show you everything. It's just like with anything when you sign for like a course or you kind of do anything else, you read a book or something like that, they're gonna give you all these bonuses, you know. So like even if it's a situation where certain things that you can add, I won't give away my farm, but there's certain like things that we give that really doesn't cost us anything, but it's an additional add-on to their benefit. Right. So, you know, there's certain things that you can do that are outside of cost, because at the end of the day, like, even if you guarantee, like, look, if one of these screw up, it's my cost. Like for some reps, like, especially if they're brand new, they don't have that kind of coin. And imagine being a new rep or like even a mid-season rep, and you're explaining that to like your HR, not your HR, but your accounting team, that yeah, we're really going to be taking a loss on this one, right? And it's just like, you know, it's like you don't want to have those conversations. That's not what we're trying to tell people to do here. You know, it's just, especially if it's like your 1 or 2 customers and you're growing in your business. But like we're kind of saying, you want to go long term. But I know that short term, realistically, Dan, could get people fired, right? So just know what you're looking at and do everything the best of your ability.
Yeah, and I mean, it could. I would say go to your manager and say, can you offer this? Right? Like work with your operations team and say, what are the best lanes that we run? What is our best way? Like, where are we the best at?
Mm-hmm.
And then Ryan, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I would say, even if you're a new rep, have the conversation with your managers, have the conversation with your ops team and say, can I offer even 20% off, like 10%? Just give them that ironclad guarantee. Like, right, you talked about online courses and all that kind of stuff, right? They all come with 30-day money back guarantee, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Right. Our software Bridger, there's no contracts. Cancel anytime. You don't like it, just cancel. It's just what it is. So that's a guarantee, right? Like with our courses, with everything we offer, there's huge ironclad guarantees. And in the world of digital marketing, you have to have those guarantees or else people will never buy. And I believe wholly that this is the next step in logistics, is what happens when what you say doesn't happen? Where is my compensation? And I'm talking as a customer. Where is my compensation for that? Because I'll tell you something, they're compensating their customers when things screw up. Everybody does, right? How many times have you called Amazon and said, this isn't what it's advertised? And I said, okay, just keep it and forget it. We'll refund you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is business. So what is that ironclad guarantee? And this can be a whole other show when it comes to guarantees, because we should probably do a show on it, because really show you kind of the different levels of guarantee in logistics world. But what's that ironclad guarantee that you're going to give me if things go wrong? Now that's believing in you and your product. And as a new sales rep, you might say, but Dan, I'm new. Well, talk to people that have been there. Talk to your head of operations. What do they believe in? You can call any person that has any real depth in logistics and say, like, what areas would you guarantee your service on?
Mm.
And you know what? And I might be speaking at a turn, Ryan, because some companies might not be that forthcoming in information, or like different departments. Oh, I can't give you my carriers because then I'm going to lose my trucks. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So there could possibly be that. But I mean, to me, I say in this day and age, come out with that ironclad offer, and like make it a no-brainer for people. I at least got to give this person a shot. I've got nothing to lose.
There we go. You make the offer so good that they can't say no, right? So we should wrap it up for there. There's a lot of nuggets in here, but looking forward, man. Looking forward to what are you guys talking about tomorrow on Data Day?
Data Day. Actually, we don't know yet. I'm waiting for the reports to come back from Dean because he's got a bunch of industry figures that should be in today, I believe. He said last night or today, so he should send me a report this morning, and then we'll put it in. But it'll be definitely kind of what's Q3, what's the trail end of Q3, what are kind of the statistics when it comes to the retail market. I'm also in touch with a few of my friends and customers still in the industry in the retail market, trying to figure out when that's going to start exploding. So it's going to be fun. Good times. Good times.
Good time, man. You guys are gonna crush it tomorrow, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then we got amazing day on Thursday, and then book on Fridays. I'm so excited, my man. It's gonna be a lot of fun as we're wrapping up, man. We're halfway done, almost September already, man. Where did September come? So let's keep getting to it, my man. We're getting to Q4, man. We're gonna be, what do we say? We're either dragging or running into it, right? So looking forward to it.
Yep. Done deal.